Hey guys, Pedro here to tell you about the latest from Armored Saint, Emotion Factory Reset, on May 22nd on Metal Blade Records. The album has 11 tracks, 48 minutes in length, and this is the band's 9th full-length studio album. They are an American heavy metal band. When it comes to the design of this record, I don't like it, I don't hate it. It's one of those designs that I don't think I could have done any better with it, but I also don't think this album design is the greatest album design for the record itself. I'm a little bit divided on it. Now, I'll explain why. I think this album, more than the design, is really driven by the influences in the sound. And then when you have songs that sometimes completely break the mold in terms of what the overall album is all about, it becomes really hard to place them in a track listing, creating a good flow for the record, and at the same time allowing those differences to not have an impact on the overall cohesiveness. This album kind of suffers from that. On one hand, they did a great job breaking the monotony of the album by inserting these songs in the right places. On the other hand, there's so many of them that the album lacks direction because of it. You're a little bit lost as you navigate through this album. You kind of find yourself, you lose yourself, you find yourself, you lose yourself. It's an album that doesn't have a clear path from beginning to end, and for someone who likes to listen to an album from start to finish, this album feels a little bit difficult. It feels a little bit bumpy. It's a record that requires a little bit of effort to stay connected with it across all 11 songs, across all 48 minutes. As far as the sound is concerned, the album offers, like I said, a lot of diversity. There's a lot of influences on this record. Influences from pop rock, from rock, country, grunge, groove, and obviously heavy metal. When you have these many influences at play, if you don't blend them in a way that you can create kind of your unique sound out of the mixture of all of them, what you end up with is a record that leans specifically towards one of those influences, song in and song out. And that's exactly what this album does. Instead of blending them all and creating almost a new soundscape for the record stays very traditional in terms of what its sound is, and then it dives deeper into those influences to better define what the sound on each and every single song becomes. Now, the production on the record is outstanding. I think every single song on this album gets the most or gives the most that it has to give, and the songs that are, let's say, country influence sound incredibly country. The songs that are more grunge influence sound very grunge. Tracks that have more of a heavy metal nature to it with a more basic rock and roll style riffing to it sound exactly like that. So they didn't veer too far off the beaten path as far as what influenced the songs in the get-go. I just feel like overall, sound-wise, the album could have had more of a unique fingerprint all around if these styles were a little bit blended together and not necessarily so segregated from one another on a song-by-song basis. Now, overall, this is a very guitar-driven album. I don't think anybody can deny that. The guitar sound overall really dictates the entire texture and the entire experience of this record. The guitars are, I would say, the main contributor, not just for the sound, but what the overall experience is going to be, with the vocals a very close second. I mean, it's really almost a tie between the impact that the guitars are going to have on this album and the impact that the vocals do. But the guitar sound is excellent throughout. Regardless of the influence, the guitar sound really matches that influence and brings it to life, to the point that if you don't know you're listening to Armored Saint, you really feel like you're listening to a different band due to how well executed those songs are and how well blended they are in terms of using Armored Saint's essence to create the songs, but delivering tracks that have a much different backdrop to them. So the guitars do a phenomenal job from that standpoint throughout the entire record. Great solos, really old school style guitar playing approach, a very rock and roll driven guitar album from beginning all the way to the end. And that allows the drums and bass to play an important role throughout this record, but not as of a defining role. I felt like the drums and bass on this album helped give the record a little bit of a heartbeat, and at times even adding a little bit of grooviness to the album. Definitely helping size the songs, giving them a little bit more width, giving a little bit more texture, making them overall richer, but the impact of them is always confined by the strength of the overall guitar sound that in the mix sits much higher than everything else. The only thing that sits even higher than the guitar sound is the vocals. And John Bush's vocals on this album are phenomenal. I mean, this guy has an incredible vocal range on full display on this album. I mean, this guy can sing every genre out there, and he kind of does on one single record here, because he really goes with the mood of the song, with the vibe of the song, with the experience and influence of the song, and he delivers a performance that matches that style really well, still staying close to who he is and to who he is as Armored Saint's frontman, but still giving the song a little bit more of a special touch depending on what the sound calls for. So his vocal performance is definitely not a one-size-fits-all, but it's incredibly consistent from top to bottom. An album that, in my opinion, has a few standout tracks. There's a lot of standout tracks on this album, actually, but overall the record doesn't really stand out to me. It's an album that has strength in the individual songs. I don't see that strength kind of, being represented across the overall collective. And I think it's because of the diversity and versatility that the record offers. I connected more with the more classic heavy metal, I should even say Armored Saint style songs, and I disconnected a little bit from the tracks that had a little bit of a different sound experience to them, that felt a little bit foreign to the overall ideas and to the overall execution that Armored Saint normally gives us on a record. So I felt a little bit divided on this album. It was an album that never allowed me to feel completely comfortable in it, but I gotta say that there are enough tracks on this record to connect with. There's enough Armored Saint on this album to connect with, but it's an album overall doesn't really connect with me, and it's an album that overall lacks, like I said earlier, a little bit of a direction, and perhaps even more important, a little bit of a sense of purpose. What do we want out of this album? If diversity is what they want, they got it, but I think that dilutes the overall quality of the record a little bit too much. As far as favorite songs goes, I want to start off with Not On Your Life, a very old school heavy metal track. I really like the sound, the production on this song. Great guitar sound, I would say even excellent guitar sound through and through. It's a song that guitar-wise offers a lot to the track. It gives it a lot of texture, a lot of richness to the song, some more old school elements in the guitar playing, in the execution, in the track itself, and the vocals match that old school approach really well. The chorus is simple, memorable, and I think that's exactly what you want out of a chorus on a track like this, but it's a solid track. Your prototypical Armored Saint catchy hook chorus style song with a very big emphasis on the guitar playing from start to end. Then you have a track like Compromise, a little bit groovier. I think that's where you're going to see some differences between Not On Your Life and Compromise, is that Compromise is definitely a groovier song with more emphasis on the bass, more emphasis on the drums, still very guitar focused and very guitar fronted, if you will, but a little bit more is offered on this track. It's a track that feels a little bit richer because of it. It feels like it has a little bit more texture because of it, but it's still a phenomenal guitar sounding song, and I think that's one of the elements that stands out, not just in this track or even in the previous one that I mentioned, but throughout the entire record. Now, John's performance on this song is excellent. I felt like we got a very heart-warm delivery from him on this song. It feels connected with the lyrics, and when you feel connected with the lyrics, I feel like you get a little bit more out of the overall performance. It feels a little bit more raw, more unfiltered, and that's exactly how this track comes around. But overall, a groovier song than Not On Your Life, not as straightforward track either, so it's a little bit more of a complex track that keeps its simplicity at the surface. Last but definitely not least, Throwing Caution to the Wind, another guitar-driven track. This one really sets that tone right from the get-go, but it's a track that, in my opinion, guitar-wise and even from an overall mix and production, definitely gives the vocals a little bit more room to breathe. It allows the guitars to still dominate, it allows the guitars to still drive the song, but it has the vocals in a position throughout where you really feel like the vocals are the ones leading everything, even the sound. It's a more vocally powerful delivered song because of it. It allows the listener to focus more on the vocals, and the sound, including the guitars, become a little bit more of a background filler that gives a sense of context to what's happening in the song, but allows you to focus a lot more on the vocal performance, allowing those vocals to stand out more within the track and giving the song a memorable chorus. Simple, hooky, catchy, incredibly simple. Definitely also helps with the idea of making the song more memorable all around. Having the vocals up front, a quick, easy chorus where the vocals and sound play an impact on allowing it to stand out from the rest of the crowd. It's all the right condiments to create a song that has that radio-friendly ability to it, and this song definitely does due to its overall vocal performance. This is it, Armored Saint with Emotion Factory Reset, once again out May 22nd on Metal Blade Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, hit me up in the comment section. I'll see you all at the next one. Take care, guys.